Millionaire sees homeless black woman with triplets, then realizes she's his childhood love and does this. Subscribe and tell us where you're watching us from. The shiny black Bentley car slowed down and stopped at the red light. Its dark windows reflected the gray sky. Inside, Adrian Hale checked his fancy watch. He had a big meeting in 30 minutes. Adrian was 42 years old and had everything. Lots of money, a big company, a fancy home, and vacation houses in different countries. But deep inside, he felt empty. No amount of money could fill that hole in his heart. Raindrops started falling on the car's window. Adrian looked outside and saw a woman standing under a store awning. She had 3 little girls with her. They huddled close together as she tried to keep them dry with her old, oversized coat. Something about her made Adrian look again. He felt something strange in his heart. "Stop the car," Adrian told his driver. "Sir, your meeting—" "I said stop the car, Spencer." Adrian grabbed his umbrella and stepped out. He walked toward the woman carefully. The 3 little girls, who looked exactly the same, held on to their mother and watched him with big brown eyes. "Excuse me," Adrian said, holding out a $100 bill. "Please take this. Get some food and a warm place for you and your children." The woman kept her head down. Her voice was quiet as she said, "Thank you, but we don't take charity." That voice, it hit Adrian like a strong wave, breaking through his memories. He bent down to see her face under the hood of her coat. "Lillian? Lillian Carter?" She flinched as if his words hurt her. Slowly she looked up. Her face was thinner, with dark circles under her eyes, but Adrian knew her right away. Those hazel eyes, the tiny scar above her eyebrow, it was her. "Danny?" she whispered, eyes wide in shock. Then her face changed to sadness and shame. She pulled her children closer as if she wanted to disappear. "You shouldn't see me like this," she said. "Please, just go." 15 years ago, Lillian was the brightest girl in their high school. Smart, beautiful, full of dreams. They had been best friends, planning their future together. Then, on graduation night, she was gone. All she left behind was a short note. "Some dreams aren't meant to be shared." "What happened to you?" Adrian asked, his heart aching. One of the little girls tugged on Lillian's sleeve. "Mommy, I'm hungry." "Soon, Nora," Lillian said, her voice shaky. "We'll eat soon." Adrian couldn't stand it. "Let me help you. Please, just a meal for the kids." Lillian looked at her daughters. Her face showed both pride and desperation. Finally, she nodded. "Just a meal." Inside a warm diner, the girls ate their pancakes as if they hadn't eaten in days. Lillian sat stiffly across from Adrian, not holding a coffee cup, but not drinking. "They're beautiful," Adrian said, looking at the triplets. "What are their names?" "Nora, Valeria, and Isabel," Lillian answered, her face softening as she looked at them. "They turned 5 last month." Adrian quickly did the math. 5 years old, but he hadn't seen Lillian in 15 years. That didn't make sense. "Their father?" Adrian started. "Not in the picture," Lillian cut him off. Then she sighed. "I'm sorry. It's been a long time since I had a normal conversation." "How did you end up like this?" Adrian asked. He couldn't believe the strong, ambitious girl he knew was now homeless. Lillian stared into her coffee. "Life doesn't always go the way we plan. One moment can change everything." She looked up at him. "You've done well." "I have," Adrian said, suddenly feeling embarrassed by his fancy suit and watch. "But success isn't always what it seems." Lillian was about to respond when her old flip phone buzzed. She checked it and turned pale. "We need to go. Now," she said, standing up fast. She grabbed the girls even as they protested about leaving their pancakes. "Lillian, wait. Thank you for the meal, Danny. It was good to see you again." Her voice trembled. "But some ghosts should stay buried." She hurried out, but something fell from her pocket. Adrian picked it up. It was a small notebook. He opened it, expecting to find a phone number. Instead, he found medical notes and hospital records for the girls. A folded photograph slipped out. It showed Lillian in a hospital gown, tired but smiling, holding 3 newborns. On the back, in Lillian's handwriting, it said, Hale girls, Nora, Valeria, Isabel, 10/17/2019. Adrian's hands shook. His phone rang. His assistant reminded him about the meeting, but he didn't hear her. He just stared at the picture. Hale girls. Was that just a coincidence, or had Lillian named them after him? Through the rain, he saw a dark car drive away in the direction Lillian had gone. Someone was following her. Adrian canceled his meeting and stayed in the diner, staring at the photograph. Then he flipped through the notebook. The last page showed an address, Sunshine Haven Women's Shelter in Queens, written just 3 days ago. Drive to Queens, Adrian told Spencer. I Sienna be a while. The shelter was an old brick building. Inside, a woman at the front desk shook her head. We don't share information about our residents. Please, Adrian begged. I think those girls might be mine. The woman hesitated. Leave your number. If she wants to call you, she will. Adrian wrote his number and turned to leave. Just then another woman with short gray hair stepped out of an office. Mr. Hale, from Hale Investments? She asked. Adrian nodded. I'm Dr. Naomi Morgan, the director here. Sienna, I speak with you? Inside her office, she studied Adrian carefully. I've worked with women in trouble for 30 years. Before I help you, I need to know why you're looking for Lillian. Adrian took a deep breath. I loved her. She disappeared 15 years ago. Today I found her, but she ran away again. She dropped this. He showed the photograph. I think I need to help her. Dr. Morgan sighed. Lillian and the girls left this morning. Someone found her. Adrian's heart sank. Do you know where she went? No, but she's been running a long time. Running from what? Dr. Morgan's eyes were serious. From who might be the better question. The girls have medical needs. Nora has a heart condition. Treatments are expensive. I can help, Adrian said quickly. I know, Dr. Morgan said, but Lillian's situation is complicated. She worked as a nurse at Memorial Children's Hospital until 6 months ago. A doctor there, Henry Foster, sometimes helps her. He might know more. Thank you, Adrian said, standing up. Mr. Hale, Dr. Morgan warned. If those girls are yours, they're also someone else's. Remember that. Adrian didn't understand what she meant, but he hurried to the hospital. He found Dr. Wells, a tall man with gray hair, looking at some papers. I'm looking for Lillian Carter. Can you help me? Dr. Wells's face stayed calm, but his body stiffened. Why are you looking for Lillian? I found her today, but she ran away. I need to know if she's okay. Dr. Wells nodded. Lillian was one of our best nurses. She worked extra shifts to pay for her daughter's treatments. Then, 6 months ago, she disappeared. I don't know what happened, Dr. Wells said. One day Lillian was fine, and the next she was gone. A week before she disappeared, she gave me some files to keep safe. She told me that if something happened to her, I should give them to someone I trust. Dr. Wells and Adrian walked to the emergency room doors. Dr. Wells stopped and stared at Adrian. Are you someone I can trust, Mr. Hale? I just want to help her, Adrian said. Whatever is happening, I want to help. Dr. Wells shook his head. Not here. Meet me at the coffee shop across the street. I finish work at 9. Adrian waited in the coffee shop. Time passed slowly. He checked his phone over and over. He looked at old pictures. Lillian laughing at prom, Lillian focused on debate team, Lillian and him at graduation. He never understood why she left, why she broke his heart. Now he wasn't sure if he had ever really known her. At 9:30, the coffee shop door opened, but it wasn't Dr. Wells. A woman walked in. She looked about 30, dressed like a businesswoman, and seemed nervous. She sat across from Adrian without asking. Mr. Hale, I'm Clara Bennett, the hospital's lawyer. Dr. Wells couldn't come. He asked me to give you this. She slid a USB drive across the table. What's on it? Adrian asked. I don't know, and I don't want to know, Clara said in a quiet voice. But listen carefully. Today, 2 men came to the hospital asking about Lillian Carter. They said they were federal agents, but they had no ID. Damien made them leave. Adrian felt a chill. What did they want? Information about Lillian and about the children, their medical records. The bell above the coffee shop door jingled. Clara glanced up and tensed. Two men in dark suits walked in, looking around. "Don't look at them," Clara whispered. "Get up. Walk out the back door now." Adrian grabbed the USB drive and left through the back. As he walked away, he heard one of the men ask, "Excuse me, ma'am. We need to talk about Dr. Henry Foster." Outside, rain poured down. Adrian stood in an alley, holding the USB drive. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "If you care about Lillian and the girls, come to Riverside Park, North Entrance, at 11 p.m. Come alone. Their lives depend on it." Adrian's heart pounded. He had to go. Riverside Park was dark and empty at night. The streetlights cast long shadows. Adrian arrived early. His clothes were wet from the rain, and he was cold. Every sound made him turn, expecting Lillian or the men in suits. At exactly 11 p.m., someone stepped out of the shadows. It wasn't Lillian. It was Dr. Wells. His face was pale. "Were you followed?" Dr. Wells asked, looking over Adrian's shoulder. "I don't think so," Adrian said. "I took a taxi and got out blocks away. Did you send the text?" "Yes. I couldn't talk at the hospital. They're watching." Dr. Wells led Adrian to a hidden bench. "Did Clara give you the USB drive?" Adrian touched his pocket. "Yes." "What's on it?" Dr. Wells said. "Lillian trusted me with her daughter's medical care, but she never told me everything. The triplets have a rare condition. Their bodies age differently. Scientists believe studying them could lead to anti-aging research. Is that why those men are after them?" "I think so. 6 months ago, Lillian found out someone was running secret blood tests on the girls during their checkups. Someone was studying them without her permission. When she complained, they ignored her. The next day, someone broke into her apartment. That's when she ran." Adrian tried to understand. Who did this? "A company called Biogenesis Pharmaceuticals. They fund most of the research at Memorial Hospital. The USB has proof that Lillian gathered evidence of illegal experiments and stolen medical records. She was building a case when..." A loud noise cracked through the air. Dr. Wells' body jerked. His eyes widened in shock. A dark red stain spread across his chest. "Run," he gasped, falling against Adrian. "Find Lillian. Dawson Street, number 17. Basement. The old caretaker." His voice faded, and he stopped moving. Footsteps rushed toward them. Adrian placed Dr. Wells gently on the bench and ran into the darkness. His heart pounded. He ran until he reached the street, then waved down a taxi. "Dawson Street. Hurry!" As the cab drove off, Adrian saw two men step out of the park, looking around. One spoke into a radio. Adrian's hands shook. A man had just been shot in front of him, and somehow all of this was about Lillian and those little girls. His little girls. The thought shocked him, but it was making more and more sense. The taxi stopped in front of an old brownstone on Dawson Street. Adrian got out and knocked on the basement door. No answer. He knocked again, harder. "Who is it?" an old man's voice asked from inside. "I'm looking for Lillian Carter. Dr. Wells sent me." Silence. Then locks clicked. The door opened a crack. An old man with tired eyes looked at Adrian. "You're not one of them," the man said. "One of who? Please, I'm trying to help Lillian and the girls." The old man nodded slowly. "She said someone might come. She left this for you." He handed Adrian a sealed envelope. "Where is she?" Adrian asked. "She left this morning. Didn't say where. Just told me to keep the envelope for one day. If no one came, I was supposed to burn it." "Did she leave anything else?" Adrian begged. "Any clue where she was going?" The old man hesitated. "She was crying. Said she was tired of running. One of the little ones, the sick one, needs medicine. Lillian said Sienna Bay it was time to stop hiding. Sienna Bay she could make a deal." The door shut. Adrian opened the envelope. Inside was a key and a note in Lillian's handwriting. "Danny, if you're reading this, I'm out of options. The storage unit holds everything. Medical records, research, proof of what they did. It's too late for me. But Sienna Bay, you can save our daughters. Locker 342, Grand Central Terminal." His phone rang. An unknown number. "Mr. Hale," a voice said. We have Lillian and her daughters. She thought you might want to join us. Adrian's grip tightened. Who are you? Dr. Lawrence Victor, chief scientist at Biogenesis Pharmaceuticals. Lillian has agreed to return to our research. She wanted you to know. In the background, Adrian heard a child crying. Then Lillian's voice, weak but clear. Don't come, Danny. It's a trap. Take the evidence. The call cut off. Then a text appeared. 1 hour. Adrian stared at the address. A biogenesis lab on the edge of the city. Adrian had only 1 hour to get there, and 1 hour to save Lillian and the girls. His girls. The people who took them were dangerous. They had already hurt people to keep their secrets. He couldn't do this alone. But who could he trust? The police wouldn't believe him without proof. And by the time he convinced them, it would be too late. Adrian looked at his phone, scrolling through his contacts. He stopped at one name, Matt Sinclair. Matt was his Damien Cross and used to be in the military. If anyone could help, it was him. 20 minutes later, Adrian and Matt met at Adrian's home. Adrian told him everything. Matt listened carefully, his face growing serious. Let me get this straight, Matt said. This company, Biogenesis, took your DNA and Lillian's DNA 15 years ago. They created embryos without permission, put them in Lillian, and now they are using the children for experiments? That's what the evidence says, Adrian replied, pointing at the documents spread out on his table. Matt shook his head. This is really bad. But sir, going into their building could be dangerous. These people have already killed before. I don't have a choice, Adrian said. They have my daughters. Then we need a plan, Matt said, checking his watch. And we need it fast. While Matt made calls to some trusted friends, Adrian opened his laptop and plugged in a USB drive that Dr. Wells had given him. It had many files, medical reports, emails, and videos. He clicked on a video called Triplets Study 17. On the screen, a doctor in a white coat was taking blood from 3 little girls sitting on an exam table. The girls, named Nora, Valeria, and Isabel, looked about 3 years old. They looked uncomfortable, but they didn't cry. A voice from off-camera said, Subject L heals faster and feels less pain than the others. Her heart problem remains stable, but we need to watch it. Adrian felt sick. They were treating his daughters like lab rats. Where was Lillian? Then the camera moved. Lillian was standing nearby, watching with a blank face. The surrogate mother is still cooperative, the voice said. She is attached to the children, which helps keep her under control. The video changed. Now, a man with silver hair was speaking to a group of important-looking people. Adrian recognized him from the news, Dr. Lawrence Victor. The Hale Carter children are our best test subjects, Dr. Victor said. If we continue, we could have an anti-aging treatment ready in 5 years. What about consent? Someone asked. Dr. Victor smiled. The parents signed forms during what they thought was a scholarship test. That covers us legally. Lillian signed surrogacy papers, so she can't argue. And Adrian Hale, he doesn't even know he has children. By the time our product is ready, no one will know the connection. Adrian slammed the laptop shut, his hands shaking. These people stole his DNA, lied to Lillian, and experimented on their daughters, all for money. Matt came back with 2 tough-looking men. We have 30 minutes to get to the facility, he said. It's a 3-story building with strong Damien. The front door needs a key card, but the loading dock is open for deliveries until 6 p.m. They expect me to come alone, Adrian said. That gives us an advantage, Matt replied. You go in the front while we sneak in through the loading dock. We'll find Lillian and the kids and get them out. And if things go wrong? Adrian asked. Matt hesitated. I have a journalist friend. If we don't check in by 7 p.m., she will release all the documents and videos. Biogenesis won't be able to hide this. It wasn't a great plan, but it was all they had. The Biogenesis building was behind a fence, surrounded by a big green lawn. Adrian walked up to the front door and pressed a button. Adrian Hale, here to see Dr. Victor, he said. The The door buzzed open. Inside, a lady at the front desk smiled and pointed him to an elevator. "Dr. Victor is waiting for you on the third floor, Mr. Hale." As the elevator doors closed, Adrian felt nervous. The plan had made sense at home. But now, inside enemy territory, he wondered if he was making a big mistake. When the elevator stopped, the doors opened into a hallway. At the end stood Dr. Victor, looking older than in the video, but still sharp-eyed. "Mr. Hale," Dr. Victor said with a smile, reaching out to shake hands. "Thank you for coming. Please, follow me." Adrian ignored his hand. "Where are they?" Dr. Victor didn't stop smiling. "Straight to business. I like that. This way." He led Adrian to a room where Lillian was sitting in a chair. The three girls were huddled close to her. When she saw Adrian, her eyes filled with fear. "I told you not to come," she whispered, her voice shaking. "I couldn't leave you," Adrian said, looking at his daughters. They stared at him with the same solemn brown eyes. "How sweet," Dr. Victor said, sitting at the table. "Family reunions are always heartwarming. Please sit. We have much to discuss." Adrian stayed standing. "Let them go. This is between us." Dr. Victor sighed. "I'm afraid it's not that simple. Your daughters are worth millions in research, billions in future profits. They are priceless. They're children, not things you own," Adrian snapped. "They are the future of medicine," Dr. Victor said. "Imagine a world where people never grow old, where sickness is a thing of the past. Your genetics helped create that." "Without our permission," Lillian shouted. Dr. Victor waved his hand. "Legal details. We're offering you a deal. Money. The best education for the girls. Medical care for Nora's heart. All we ask is that you continue with the research." Adrian looked at Lillian and the girls. Nora looked especially pale and weak. "And if we say no?" Adrian asked. Dr. Victor's smile faded. "Then things get difficult. Lillian could be arrested for stealing company files, and we have great lawyers. We could take custody of the children." "You're threatening to take our kids?" Adrian said. "I'm giving you a choice," Dr. Victor said. "Join us or fight us and lose. Either way, the girls stay." Adrian checked his watch. Matt should be in position. He needed to stall. "Explain the research to me," Adrian said, finally sitting down. "What have you learned?" Dr. Victor smiled and started talking about healing and age reversal. Adrian glanced at Lillian, then at the door. She gave him a tiny nod. Suddenly, the lights flickered. Then an alarm blared. Dr. Victor jumped up. "What is that?" The door burst open. Matt and his men rushed in. "Fire alarm," Matt said calmly. "The building is being evacuated. We need to go. Now." Dr. Victor reached for the phone. One of Matt's men stepped forward, showing a badge. "Homeland Damien, there's a possible biocontamination. Everyone must leave immediately." Dr. Victor's face turned pale. "Biocontamination? That's impossible. Our safety." "Now, sir," Matt said firmly, motioning to the door. In the confusion, Adrian grabbed Lillian's hand and pulled her and the girls toward the exit. Adrian moved closer to Lillian and the girls. "We need to go," he whispered. "Trust me." People were running toward the emergency exits, but Matt led them the other way toward a special elevator. "A van is waiting," he murmured to Adrian. "We have 30 seconds." They were almost at the elevator when someone shouted. Dr. Victor stood with two Damien guards, pointing at them. "Stop them. They're stealing the test subjects." "Run," Adrian said, picking up Elena. Lillian held on to the other two girls. They ran toward the stairs instead. Matt and his friends stayed behind to slow the guards down. Adrian could hear the girls whimpering. He felt Elena's heart beating fast against his chest. "Almost there," he told them. "Almost safe." At the bottom of the stairs, Matt's other friend held a door open. "This way." They ran outside into the evening light. The van was waiting. Behind them, they could hear shouting and running footsteps. "Hurry," the driver called. The van's engine was running. Lillian climbed in with Valeria and Isabel. Adrian passed Elena to her, then turned to check on Matt. Instead, he saw Matt holding a gun facing the guards. "Go!" Matt shouted. "I'll hold them off." Adrian hesitated for a moment, then jumped into the van. As they sped away, he saw Matt standing firm, giving them time to escape. The van rushed through the gates and onto the road. In the back, Lillian held the girls tightly, whispering to calm them down, even as tears ran down her face. "Are we safe now, Mommy?" one of the twins asked. Adrian thought it was Isabel, but wasn't sure yet. Lillian looked at Adrian over the girls' heads. "I don't know, sweetheart," she said honestly, "but we're together, and that's what matters." Adrian's phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "They're following. Ditch the van. Meet at the safe spot." Matt was alive. Relief flooded through Adrian, but fear returned quickly. This wasn't over. As the van moved through the city, Adrian kept checking the side mirror, looking for anyone following them. "We need to leave this van," Adrian told the driver, showing him Matt's message. "There's a parking garage 2 blocks ahead," the driver, Marcus, replied. "We have another car waiting there." In the back seat, Lillian checked Elena's pulse, looking worried. "She needs her medicine," she said softly. "The stress isn't good for her heart." "What kind?" Adrian asked. "A beta blocker," Lillian said. "They gave her a special version, but any kind will help for now." Adrian turned to Marcus. "We need to stop at a pharmacy." "Too risky," Marcus said. "They're tracking us." "My daughter needs medicine," Adrian said, the word daughter feeling strange but also right. Marcus hesitated, then nodded. "There's a 24-hour pharmacy near the garage. Quick stop only." As they planned the stop, Lillian looked at Adrian with a mix of emotions. Finally, she whispered, "I'm sorry I never told you. I wanted to so many times." Adrian met her eyes in the mirror. "When did you find out they were mine?" "Not until they were almost 3, Lillian said, her voice quiet. Valeria and Isabel were playing a finger game, but Lillian kept speaking. "I started noticing things. Isabel has your smile. Valeria has your determination. At first, I thought I was imagining it. I was just a surrogate, or so I believed. The embryos were supposed to be from unknown donors who couldn't have children." "But you suspected?" Adrian asked. "I worked in the genetics lab at Memorial Hospital. I tested their DNA and compared it to mine. When I saw the match, I was confused. Then I found records linking biogenesis to the graduation scholarship program. I started digging and found proof they took DNA from many students that year. When I confronted them, they offered me money to stay quiet." "Why didn't you come to me?" Adrian asked. Lillian's eyes filled with tears. "They told me you knew, that you signed away your rights and didn't want anything to do with it. I believed them. Then I saw your name on a list of unwilling donors. By then, they were watching me. I was afraid they'd take the girls if I contacted you." Adrian stayed silent. 15 years stolen. A life they should have shared. 3 daughters who should have known their father, all because of greedy scientists. The van pulled into a parking garage. "We switch cars here," Marcus said, pointing at a small, plain-looking car. "I'll arrange the pharmacy stop." As they changed vehicles, Valeria shyly walked up to Adrian. "Are you really our dad?" she asked, looking at him with the same eyes he saw in the mirror every day. Adrian knelt to her level, unsure how to answer. Lillian placed a hand on Valeria's shoulder. "Yes, Valeria," she said softly. "This is your father." "How come we never met before?" Valeria asked. "Some bad people kept us apart," Adrian said carefully. Valeria thought for a moment, then nodded. "Elena is really sick. Can you fix her? Like daddies do in stories?" Adrian's heart ached. "I'm going to try my best." Their new driver, a woman named Sienna, took them to the pharmacy. Marcus had called ahead. Adrian rushed inside with a list from Lillian. As he waited, he saw a black SUV slowly drive through the parking lot. He stepped back into the shadows. Once the SUV passed, he hurried to the counter. "We have a problem," the pharmacist said quietly. "Your daughter's medicine is special. I can give you a regular beta blocker, but it's not the same. Her body might not react well to the change." "What will happen?" Adrian asked. "Dizziness, tiredness, Sienna fainting. It won't be dangerous, but she'll feel different." Adrian grabbed the medicine, thanked him, and ran back to the car. He saw Elena's pale face and shaky breathing. "We need to find a safe place," he told Sienna. "Somewhere Elena can rest." "The fallback location is a safe house in Westchester," Sienna said, "about an hour away." Lillian gave Elena the medicine, then held her close as she whimpered. The other girls were finally asleep, leaning on each other. "Where are we going?" Lillian asked as the city lights disappeared behind them. "A safe house," Adrian answered. "Matt set it up. We need to figure out what to do next." "They won't stop looking for us," Lillian said. "You saw what they're willing to do." "I know," Adrian said, "but we have proof now, enough to expose them." "Proof isn't enough," Lillian said. "Biogenesis has powerful friends, the government, the media, the police. They've planned this for years. If they perfect their anti-aging research, they'll be unstoppable. That's why I never went public." Adrian had no answer. Instead, he asked, "Tell me about them, our daughters." Lillian smiled for the first time that night. "They're amazing. Valeria is the leader. Fearless, always trying new things. Isabel is the peacemaker. She feels what others feel. And Elena," her voice softened. "Elena is the dreamer, always lost in books and ideas." "Like her mother," Adrian said, "and stubborn like her father," Lillian teased. Their warm moment was interrupted by a call through the car's speaker. "Matt," Adrian answered. "Are you safe?" "For now. Heading to the safe house. But listen, Biogenesis is serious. They hired ex-military Damien. They're calling this corporate espionage." "We have kids with us," Adrian said angrily. "They don't care," Matt said. "They claim the company legally owns them." Adrian felt sick. "What do we do now?" he asked. "I'm working on it," Matt replied. "Remember the journalist I told you about, Naomi Sinclair from the Global Investigator? She's looking at the evidence. She says it's really big news, but she has to check if it's all true first." "How long before they can tell the story?" Adrian asked. "At least 1 day. Sienna, maybe 2. They need to check everything and make sure it's legal to publish." Adrian looked at the sleeping girls in the back seat. "We, Sienna, not have that much time." "I know. That's why I have a backup plan," Matt said. "There's a small airport not far from the safe house. I know someone with a plane who can take you to Canada. From there, you can decide what to do next." "Running away won't fix this," Adrian said. "Sometimes running is the best choice," Matt answered. "Get your family to safety first, then we fight." The call ended as the car turned onto a quiet road, away from the highway. Sienna, the driver, was careful, the headlights shining on tall trees around them. "Matt is right," Lillian said from the back seat. "We need to get the girls somewhere safe first." "And then what?" Adrian asked. "Hide forever? That's not a real life." "It's better than letting them be treated like experiments," Lillian said, her voice strong. "You just met them, but I've been keeping them safe for 5 years." "I'm not saying you're wrong," Adrian said. "I just think there has to be a better way." Before Lillian could answer, Sienna slowed the car. "We have a problem," she said. "What is it?" Adrian asked. The headlights showed something up ahead. "A roadblock," he muttered. "Can we turn around?" Lillian asked. Sienna quickly turned the car around, but then bright lights shone on them. 2 black SUVs appeared behind them, blocking the way. "We're trapped," Adrian said. Sienna reached under her seat and grabbed a gun. "Stay down," she ordered. "No shooting," Adrian said, glancing at the now-awake children. "There has to be another way." Men dressed in black, holding weapons, walked toward the car. Adrian saw their leader. It was the same Damien Cross from Biogenesis who had been chasing them earlier. "Adrian Hale," the man called through a megaphone. "We have you surrounded. Give us the children and Dr. Carter, and no one gets hurt." "What do we do?" Lillian whispered, holding the girls close. Adrian looked around, trees on both sides, cars in front and back, no way out. His phone buzzed. A text from Matt. "They have you surrounded. I found another way. Buy me 10 minutes. "I'm going to talk to them," Adrian said, reaching for the door. Lillian grabbed his arm. "They'll take you." "They want me anyway," Adrian said. I run a big company and have made powerful enemies. Now I'm exposing a huge secret. They need to stop me. That doesn't make this safer, Lillian whispered harshly. Adrian squeezed her hand. Trust me. Keep the girls down. Be ready to move. He turned to Sienna. 10 minutes. No matter what happens, get them out of here. Then, before anyone could stop him, Adrian opened the door and stepped out, raising his hands. Good choice, Damien Cross said. Now, have the others step out too. Let's talk first, Adrian said, walking forward. You're making a mistake. The mistake was yours when you stole company property. You mean my daughters? Adrian asked loudly. The ones your company created without my permission? Damien Cross hesitated. This is a legal matter, Mr. Hale. We are just taking back what belongs to Biogenesis. Nothing here belongs to you, Adrian said. And I have proof. You're bluffing. Am I? Adrian pulled out his phone. Shall I call Naomi Sinclair, the journalist? She's publishing everything tomorrow. Illegal experiments, fake consent forms, the names of everyone involved. By noon, your company will be in big trouble. The Damien team exchanged nervous looks. Adrian checked the time. 3 minutes had passed. He needed 7 more. We can still fix this quietly, Adrian continued. Biogenesis can offer a deal to the victims. My lawyers can write it tonight. No police, no media. Damien Cross touched his ear, listening to someone through an earpiece. Dr. Victor wants to talk to you, he finally said, handing Adrian a phone. Mr. Hale, the doctor said angrily, you are making a big mistake. No, you made the mistake, Adrian said. 15 years ago, when you played with people's lives, now you're facing the consequences. Sienna, we can make a deal, Victor suggested. We continue our research, but with your permission this time. You and Lillian can be part of it. We'll be honest. We'll pay you well. You don't understand, Adrian said. This isn't a deal. It's over. Your company will pay one way or another. 9 minutes. Adrian looked back at the car. Lillian and the girls were ready. Sienna had started the engine. Suddenly, a huge explosion lit up the night sky. Everyone turned to look. 10 minutes. Go! Adrian shouted. Sienna sped past the distracted guards. Adrian ran toward the car as the Damien team yelled and fired shots. He crashed through the trees, trying to reach them. Adrian! Lillian called. The car had stopped in a clearing. Adrian ran faster as the guards got closer. He jumped inside and Sienna hit the gas. What was that explosion? Adrian gasped. Matt, Sienna answered. He said to tell you he took care of it. It was an empty building, set to be destroyed anyway. Perfect distraction. As they sped away, Adrian held Lillian and the girls close. Sienna, just Sienna, they had a chance. But as the fear faded, a new thought hit him. They had escaped, but the real fight was just beginning. The safe house was a small wooden cabin hidden in the trees. Inside, Sienna locked the doors, while Lillian put the girls to bed. Adrian's phone rang. It was Matt. We're at the safe house, Adrian said. What's happening? It's bad, Matt said. Biogenesis has filed kidnapping charges against you. They say the kids belong to their company. The police are looking for you. Adrian closed his eyes. And the journalist? She's trying, but her editor is scared. They want more proof before publishing. Also, someone is trying to get into your bank accounts. They're saying you've lost your mind and kidnapped 3 kids. They work fast, Adrian muttered. They've planned for this, Matt said. The plane is still an option. You can leave by morning. Adrian turned to Lillian. We could be in Canada tomorrow, Lillian sighed. And then what? Keep running forever? That's not a life. What else can we do? Adrian asked. Lillian looked at him, determination in her eyes. We fight, but not by running. We make sure they can't hurt us without exposing themselves. Adrian Hale sat in a small wooden house, thinking hard. His face had been on the cover of a big business magazine, and now Lillian, the mother of his children, was telling him to speak out. She wanted him to tell the world what Biogenesis had done. If everyone knew the truth, the bad people couldn't make them disappear. Adrian knew it was dangerous. If they couldn't prove their story, it could ruin his job. But he also knew this might be their only chance. "I'll call Matt," he said. Matt was his friend, and within an hour, he had arranged for a reporter named Vivian Sinclair to come to the house. She brought a camera person with her. Even though it was late at night, Vivian was full of energy, ready to help. "We will show this live on the Global Investigators website," Vivian said, "and I'll share it everywhere so no one can erase it." Adrian sat in front of the camera, feeling nervous. Lillian sat beside him. The three little girls, Elena, Valeria, and Isabel, were asleep. They didn't need to be part of this battle. Vivian counted down. 3, 2, 1. The camera light turned red. Adrian took a deep breath. "My name is Adrian Hale, and I am the CEO of Hale Investments. Just one day ago, I found out that I have 3 daughters. I never knew about them. They are 5 years old. Their names are Elena, Valeria, and Isabel. They were created in a secret illegal experiment using my DNA and the DNA of their mother, Lillian Carter." Adrian told the whole story. He explained how he and Lillian had been tricked years ago, how Biogenesis had taken their DNA without permission, and how Lillian had discovered the truth while working there. Lillian spoke next, telling how she had run away with the girls when she realized they were being used for experiments. She choked up when she talked about Elena's heart problem and how she couldn't get the right medical care while they were in hiding. Vivian watched the comments on her tablet. More and more people were watching. First, there were hundreds, then thousands, then tens of thousands. People were sharing the story everywhere. "We have all the proof," Adrian said. He showed the camera the files, medical records, secret messages, and even videos of the experiments. "Dr. Henry Foster tried to expose Biogenesis, but we believe he was murdered last night by their people." Vivian's eyes widened. "Mr. Hale, I just got a report. The FBI is at Biogenesis headquarters right now with search warrants. Someone sent them a tip with lots of evidence." Adrian looked at Lillian. "It had to be Matt who tipped them off." "Every news channel wants to talk to you," Vivian added. "This story is everywhere. Over 200,000 people are watching." A loud noise filled the air. A helicopter flew above the house, its bright light sweeping the area. Adrian's heart pounded. Had Biogenesis found them? Then his phone buzzed. It was a message from Matt. "FBI helicopter. They tracked your signal. They are here to protect you, not arrest you. Trust me." Adrian looked at the camera. "It looks like the federal agents have found us. We welcome them. We will fully cooperate with their investigation." The live video kept going as FBI agents arrived. A woman stepped into the house. "I'm Special Agent Celeste Monroe," she said, looking at the camera. "We've been watching your live stream. Do you really have proof about Dr. Henry Foster's death and the experiments on children?" "Yes," Adrian said. "We have everything. And we need to take your statements and collect the evidence," Agent Monroe said. "But first, I want you to know that your family is safe. The children will stay with you." Vivian ended the video after Agent Monroe confirmed that Biogenesis and Dr. Victor's home were both being searched. The reporter left with copies of the proof, promising to keep telling the world what happened. The next morning, Adrian stood on the porch. FBI agents were still working, collecting more evidence. Lillian joined him, pulling a sweater around her shoulders. "What happens now?" she asked softly. "Agent Monroe says we have to give formal statements, but then we're free," Adrian said. "Biogenesis's money has been frozen and the girls are legally ours." Lillian let out a deep breath. "We're really free?" "Yes," Adrian said. "There will be court cases, and the news will keep talking about us for a long time, but we are free." Lillian smiled, but she looked tired. A real life, not spent in hiding. The cabin door opened, and little Valeria peeked out, rubbing her eyes. "Mommy, I'm hungry." Lillian's smile became real and bright. "Come on, sweetheart. Let's find something for breakfast." Valeria looked at Adrian curiously. "Are you coming too, Dad?" The word Dad hung in the air. It was new. It was big. Adrian felt something change inside him, filling a space he didn't even know was empty. "Yes," he said, taking Valeria's small hand. "I'm coming too." Adrian's fancy apartment was different now. It used to be stylish and simple, but now it was full of color. The walls had drawings and paintings, toys were neatly put away in baskets, and each girl had her own special room. Valeria's room had stars and science things, Isabel's had books and art supplies, and Elena's had a cozy window seat for reading. In the kitchen, Adrian was making pancakes. Lillian was packing school lunches. This was their new normal. The girls went to a good school with strong Damien. Lillian had a new job at a hospital working on ethical science. Adrian changed his business so he could spend more time at home. Biogenesis was gone, and the people in charge were being punished for their crimes. The government was making new rules to stop bad experiments like this from happening again. "Dad, you're burning the pancakes," Elena said from the kitchen counter, where she was reading a book about ocean animals. "Oops," Adrian flipped them over quickly. They were a little too dark. "These are mine. The perfect ones are for you three princesses." "I'm not a princess," Valeria said, setting the table. "I'm going to be an astronaut." "Okay, an astronaut princess," Adrian said with a wink at Lillian. She smiled back at him as she helped Isabel tie her shoe. Adrian and Lillian were still figuring things out. They slept in separate rooms, but they talked a lot, sometimes late into the night. They were taking their time, rebuilding trust. At the breakfast table, Adrian looked at each of them. Valeria, carefully pouring syrup. Isabel, smiling gently as she passed the butter. Elena, deep in thought as she bookmarked her page. And Lillian, finally looking peaceful. "What are you thinking about?" Lillian asked, noticing his look. Adrian smiled. "That some dreams aren't shared at first. They are found again when the time is right." Lillian's eyes shone, but her smile was steady. And some paths, no matter how far apart they go, always find their way back together. Outside, the city was waking up. There were still big challenges ahead, but for now, in this moment, they were just a family, having breakfast together. "Dad?" Isabel asked, syrup dripping from her fork. "Will you always be with us now?" Adrian took her small hand in his and squeezed it. "Always." And in their eyes, he saw a future full of love, truth, and light. Thanks for watching. If you liked the story, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share your thoughts in the comments. Check out our other videos too. See you in the next one.